Hello everyone, this is Ibrahim and we're still doing the Learn Flutter videos. So in the previous video, we've actually managed to implement the stateful widgets, and we've learned the difference between stateful widgets and stateless widgets. We've also managed to implement these indicators in a way that these indicators actually change on page view change. So the moment this page on the page view changes, the indicators change as well. So you can see the previous video on how we actually achieved this. So in today's video, we want to control the page changes from this button. Instead of just depending on the scrolling effect here that we have, we want to click on next and this page actually changes. Luckily for us, the page view has this functionality built in. We just have to make a few minor additions to the implementation that we currently have. So we have the page view in place. As you can see, the page view takes in an unchanged event that we've implemented that takes in the page index as we change the page view. It also takes in something called controller. So in order for us to actually start controlling the page view, we need to define, so the controller actually implements the page controller class defined to us. And the way we do this is very simple. So we define page controller, and then we can give it a name. Say there's a preferred way in Flutter to define variables and classes. So for private classes and variables, we add an underscore in front of the name. So in this case, we could do the same here, underscore page index, which basically means in convention that this page index is private to this boarding state. Okay, so let's do this implementation. The convention in this implementation that we're doing now. So page controller, let's give it a page controller name. So this is just a name. You can name it anything else. Like you can name it view controller. Like we could go page view controller. It doesn't really matter. And this actually is a page view controller implementation, and that takes in an initial page. Let's give it an initial page of 0. And so the initial page 0. What am I missing here? Initial page 0. Initial page is initial page is capital P. So basically we just initiated a variable, an object of page view that we need. So this implements the page controller class, and the page controller allows us to change pages visible to us in the page view. That's it. So this class here is just creating an object of this class with the initial page of 0. Now we need to supply this object here to the page view, and it's very simple to do this. Now in the page view here, we just add a controller, and in the controller we add the page view controller that we've defined, the object that we've defined earlier right here. Okay. So now we have the controller in place and everything in place, but the button doesn't really understand what to do because we haven't done any implementation for the button. So the moment we press on the button, we want to change this page view controller. And something else to note is that the state in this is already implemented for us, so we really don't have to make any changes to the page controller. So let's go back down to the flat button we have. We currently have this as null. So this takes in a function. So let's do that. And then let's do the implementation of the onPressed function. Now the onPressed function takes in. So we call in the page controller, as I said, and we just make the changes over there. So underscore. So we have the page view controller. Now this has a method called next page. Let me add a semicolon. Remember, we added semicolon to statements if they are in a function. In this case, they are in the body of the function. Now the duration is this takes in the duration implementation, and it takes in several we don't want to set days, of course. Let's just say milliseconds. Let's go for milliseconds. We don't want to set this to days, obviously. Let's have this 1000. Let me reformat this. So, and the curve is basically the transition effect that you want to have on the page view. So on the click, the controller, we wanna So we're basically commanding the controller to make the transition done in some kind of effect. So in the curve, we could just do like curves dot and then the type of effect that we want to have. You have actually multiple effects that you can do. I think bounce is pretty nice. Let's go with bounce. Probably easy is a suitable one. Let's go with this one, bounce in and out, and that's about it. So on the press of a button here that we have here, we want to sorry, we just command the controller to make the change on the page view to make the transition to the next page, and the duration of 1000 milliseconds, and the type of animation or the type of transition between screens is done using this effect. So let's save this and see how this actually is presented. Note something now, this is already reloaded, and you can see that the button has already changed effect from its disabled form to this form. This is actually functional now, but I was just wanting you to see the difference. So if I scroll, nothing really, there's no effect in here, nothing is really done, no changes have been done there. But look what happens when I click on the next button. You see the effect there. There is this kind of bounce in, bounce out kind of effect you have there. Then you could just have this done, like you could change the, you could just have this bounce in, and then you could just so we don't have a, let me click on, see what happens there. And that's about it. So to conclude, in short, in order for us to control the page view, we just need to pass in the page controller class. So we created a variable here, an object of a page controller class with an initial page of 0, and then we pass that controller to the page view here, and then we just commanded this button to make the changes to the page controller variable object that we have created. So this we just pass in, so we command the next page to show up and pass in the duration and the animation, and that's about it. So that's how we control the page view from a button on any external it could be an icon, whatever it is. So that's it, and we are basically through with this onboarding screen now. So I can safely say that we've done the onboarding screen. You can work or play around with the colors if you so please. You can add a background color to the flag button, it's your call. You can add an icon, it's also your call. Yeah, this is it for this video. We've done the onboarding screen, and we can add a little bit, we can have a little bit of animation done to these buttons as they transition. Like you can see that there's a change here, but there's no animation in the buttons. There is a change though, there is an animation in the in this change. You could go these in and save it. It's better. That's the way, that's what we're looking. So this was kind of the original effect, but it's more like slower. Anyways, so that's that, and hopefully we just add one more video on animating these circles, these indicators, and we will be done with the onboarding screen. So if you can reflect back, it was very, very simple achieving this onboarding screen, and it's very straightforward. We just added in images, and then we adopted them here. We created the page view, we created indicators, and we created all of these goodness. I will add the code to this one on GitHub as we finish. Like on the next video, I'll be pushing the code. And yeah, that's about it, and happy coding. Have a good day.